And we are here. Welcome to today's Natural Healing Study Group. And today we have a pretty interesting topic, I think. We're going to talk about color, healing, sound, frequencies, and how we can use those principles to help heal our bodies and to understand healing and to understand relationships between color, sound, sacred geometry, frequencies, and healing. Because we are definitely moving into a different place, a different era. You have all probably noticed that in this last 5 or 6 years, we've really gone wireless, our whole society everywhere. We've gone into, of course, we've been into cell phones and smartphones, and now we're into Wi-Fi everywhere. Everything's wireless. I remember a few years ago, like in 2015, where places would say, "We have Wi-Fi," or "What's the Wi-Fi code?" You got to go ask the manager or something for the Wi-Fi code. And that was a big deal. And now it's everywhere. And we're like, oh my God, what happened? So that's what got us into discovering a lot more about the detrimental effects of electromagnetic fields. I mean, we've always been aware of them. Years ago, we were talking this morning about the evolution of this. I mean, it's bad now, but years ago, we were worried about the wiring. Excuse me, the 60 cycle wiring. I thought that was bad. I thought that it is, and it still is. So and then finding out about dirty electricity, where things, are riding in on the neutral. You get, some of your neighbors' dirty electricity. We'll explain that another time, but that's just remnants of the excess power or things that aren't really harmonious to it. Let me just put it that way. So those were scary enough. And then we got into this electrical, this invisible electrical energy that started to just become everywhere. So we sort of have forgotten that we had Ethernet cables, that everything was hardwired in, and that we can even have, phones that have cords plugged into them,
keyboard.
Yeah, the we can have the mouse. Yeah, mine doesn't to fit here to show you. There it is. There, look at the wire, wire on my mouse, and then the keyboard is that way too. So all this stuff started to creep in, and we started to see a real change in how people maintain their health and how they got well. We started to see people that couldn't get on top of the wave with a lot of things that were normally healthy, but that they had a slow time recovering from an injury, getting on top of the wave with things. And then we started to see a lot more electrical problems in the body, a lot more heart problems, a lot more overactivity. People were overstimulated. It didn't take much to drive somebody over the edge because they're already on the edge. So a little bit of nagging or something just sometimes would trigger and set people off. And we can see that happening in our world. So today we want to explore a little bit about this invisible world. We're moving into it, how this affects us and how we can use these frequencies, these color patterns to help us heal. So I'm going to let Bobby talk a little bit, and then we'll show you some really fun things today.
Yeah, it's like not too long ago we saw signs everywhere that said free Wi-Fi. Yeah, and probably in the future we'll see signs that go Wi-Fi free.
Yeah.
You'll be bragging about that. And I want to talk about we mentioned it last week on our history of the influenza, and how that was actually an electrical disease, and when there was solar maximum sunspot activity, probably coronal mass ejections, that increase of energy coming into our atmosphere, affecting everyone. And masses of people would come down with symptoms that were from the damage done to their cells. And wasn't communicable, couldn't spread that fast by human contagion. But as you expose yourself to these fields, you build up, if you're not grounded, you'll build up static charge. And that's what creates the problem, because it interferes with the subtle electrical charges, say, on our cell membranes, inside and outside the cell membrane. There are real subtle differences in voltage and things. But when you start exposing yourself to exogenous, external influences, then that builds up in the body, and it upsets the gradients that naturally are there in our cells. So, yeah, this can cause a lot of stress, all the way down to our DNA. And our DNA have interesting structures that are actually resonant, almost like antennas, in the DNA molecule itself. So it's a protein assembly of simple amino acids together, but they act as an antenna and also as a source of light and sound in the body. And the DNA is actually sensitive to frequencies that are bombarding it, that are hitting our bodies, that are, as well as produced within our bodies. That's part of how the cells communicate, and the DNA communicates through light and sound.
So the DNA, basically, they're double strands that spiral around each other, and they're responsible for what people normally think of as to regenerate the cell, to generate proteins. But what you're saying is they have more of an influence with moving energy. They're an antenna, and
there's structures in the DNA that are sensitive to sound and to external vibration that affects us all the way down to our DNA, basically. So when we use our table, say, with a patient on it, we're using specific vibrations that affects all the way down to the DNA, and it affects the water in the body itself. Actually, I'm going to show you.
Yes, for people that may not know what the table is or haven't experienced that, it'd be good.
Hi, welcome to the Tuberose Research Clinic. We're going to share our musical sound table with you today. This is the Tuberose Healing Sound Table. It looks like a regular treatment table or massage table, but it's much more. To start with, it's an awesome table in itself. It's an Earthlight Sedona model. It's got very nice wood. This is the stationary model, and we also have a folding version for massage therapists, people that travel more. It has the Zenbi sound cushion that has built-in speakers, so you get the right and left separation for binaural beat. Now we've added to this some special sound transducers that transfer sound into the body through bone conduction, skin conduction, as well as neural conduction. So we have these transducers in the table, and we have full-range speakers located here on either side of the head. Again, if you're on your back, you get the binaural beat separation, and if you're face down with the Zenbi sound cushion, you're getting it that way as well, without having the cumbersomeness of headphones. Like if you're doing cranial work or something, and you can't have headphones on them. So this allows you to transfer frequencies into the body to heal, to help restructure the actual tissues and the water in the body with sacred, geometrically healing frequencies of nature. So we can use specific frequencies like Rife frequencies, Hulda-Clark frequencies. You can use regular music if you want, just as another means of entertainment, just to kind of chill out and float away. You can listen to guided imagery. It's really nice. Something like poetry, like Rod McEwen or something, is really nice on the table too. So you feel the sound. It sounds like it's coming from inside of you. It's really different. So when we couple this to healing, we found we started getting a lot of wins with people. So when you lie on this, it actually restructures the tissues in the body that get displaced by exposure to noxious influences like electromagnetic fields, carrying a cell phone in your pocket, living in a Wi-Fi environment, exposed to all kinds of influences like that that change the structure and the function of our bodies when we're exposed to it. So when you lie on this table, it can like reset your body back to normal, and it's like rebooting the body, and you start out again with the normal structure pattern of nature. So we have an amplifier built into it, and we have these transducers that I mentioned. We have it hooked up to a computer right now. It could be hooked up to a tablet, it could be even a smartphone, anything with a headphone jack into it. So it's very versatile like that. And it plugs into the wall for the amplifier, but other than that, there's no electromagnetic, pulsed electromagnetic fields that, unlike other devices like this that use PEMF or pulsed electromagnetic fields, this does not. It uses acoustic energy, just sound that transfers through the table into the body, and again through the water in our body, which sound travels 5 times faster through water than through air. So it gets everywhere in the body, basically, once you couple these frequencies to the body. So this could be used for specific treatment of maybe a terminal condition that you're trying to turn around, or it can just be used to maintain your health, or just as entertainment, to a new way of hearing your music collection. So it's very versatile like that, and we're really excited about it. And we're making this available now to the public. Again, we have the stationary version like this, and we have a folding version that's easier to carry around. So check our website, tuberosehealing.com, and click on the Tuberose Healing Sound Table and learn more about it.
All right. So when you lie on this table, you're using sound to stimulate down to the DNA level. Yeah, it stimulates all the way down, and it physically restructures the water in the body and all the molecules that make up our body back to the normal sacred geometric patterns of nature that should be there, that get affected by noxious interference of man-made influences, especially the microwaves and cell phones and Wi-Fi routers and Bluetooth devices, things like right next to the body or in your environment. So we're using sound to affect the DNA on that level.
So if what we're finding is, if you are, and as our world is getting increasingly more polluted with electromagnetic frequencies, it disturbs your own frequencies. It disturbs, the rhythm of your heart, the way your brain and nervous system functions. So those normal frequencies become disturbed. And that's where people get off, agitated, disease. So what we're finding is the population density, the more population dense areas that you live in, the more of those frequencies that you will incur, not only from your own house, but your neighbors, and that neighbor, 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 depending on how, if you live in an apartment or in a subdivision.
And social distance from this stuff.
No, I mean, really. So those all create disturbances in your own normal pattern. So what we're finding is going to be the wave of the future, the medicine of the future, because we're gonna fight 5G tooth and nail. We're gonna fight this stuff, but the fact is that it's being done already. There's different places that it is in place. You know, we can't be all altruistic. Oh, we're gonna solve it. We're gonna save it, but in the meantime, we may reverse it and turn it around, but there's going to be a lot of casualties and a lot of problems in the meantime. So we have to face it and find ways to mitigate it. So having harmonizers, we're going to talk about, a different class, things that you can plug into your electric outlets. There's lots of things, your shielding, ways to get around this. But what we're finding is with the table, what we feel is going to be necessary for the future is you're going to have to tone your body frequently. The more population dense or sicker you are, the more you would have to use this on a daily basis.
So
So
like brushing your teeth regularly or
taking supplements. This is going to be the new form of supplements because you're going to need to restore your body's own natural function as well as address the different things that just go wrong, but just to put yourself back on balance.
It's kind of
if
like
nothing else.
doing a reboot.
Yeah. So what you were going to say, I just wanted to mention that before we got off topic on there about that frequencies.
Oh, that's okay. So you were going to talk about the correlation of sound and colors. And
Right.
we use both sound and light when working with our patients, and both of those are considered electromagnetic frequencies in the spectrum of electromagnetic frequencies. And we use specific ones that are really important. But talk a little bit about the correlation of light and sound, if you would.
Yeah, let me, I'll share my screen as well. Let me just share it now and I can, that you'll hear. But basically, I want to start correlating the fact that color, and I'll show you in a little while. I got a little PowerPoint to show you, but if we speed color up so many frequency cycles, it becomes, let me just say it this way. We got to do it the other way. If we speed the sound up, or if we slow the color down, either way, one becomes the other.
And by speeding up, you mean raising the frequency?
Yes.
Doubling. Every time you double a frequency, you raise it an octave.
Yep, and I'll show you that.
If you double it enough times, 40 times, actually 40 octaves, it'll come through as a color. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and I'll show you when I get a PowerPoint. It shows that on the piano. We can show a whole bunch of the A's, on the piano, and then we can imagine that going off in 40 more times, like Bobby said, and then we get that color. So we'll get there, but I want to show you that correlation. So if you haven't ever thought about that, that's pretty profound to just think about having that note, become a color. And that, so I'm going to kind of work backwards with it. I'm going to show you that color and then how it also will affect your emotions. Like, if I put red on, red is very stimulating and it can also make you real angry too. So what note correlates with red? What chords are in that sequence? If you're hearing a lot of red sound, red tones, red keys, red stuff, you might get a little bit more charged up and amped up. So anyway, I want to show you a little bit of this. I'm going to just play this and then we'll talk about it. So it says the scientific color spectrum divides the color into 12 equal spots, which you just saw. Okay. Colors which are consecutive on the color circle are close related and they're called analogous colors. They're right next to each other. Did I get this going for you? Yep. Okay, so when analogous colors are mixed, the result is a color which is halfway between them and within the same color range. Now, colors that are opposite, located on the opposite side of the color, are distantly related. They're called complementary colors. And when you mix complementary colors, the result is gray. So that's because the waves or properties or mathematical numbers that underlie each of these they cancel each other out. It says it creates a destructive interference pattern that they cancel each other out, leaving gray. So you can see in the middle, when we put the red violet and the yellow green together, we get a gray color. All right, now, primary colors are divided into 3 sections: red, yellow, and blue. And all of these mixed in different amounts will give us, you know, all of the other colors. And then I'll show you again. Here we go. This is cool. So look at this one. So if we have red up here, you know, 100% red, and if we dilute red with a quarter yellow, you know, 75% red and 25% yellow, which is that other primary color over here, we're going to get like a red-orange. Now, if we dilute red, 25% red with more yellow, 75%, then we're going to get orange. And then we got 100% yellow. And then we do the same thing. So we got 75, 25, 50, 50, 25, 75, 100%. And then 75, 25, 50, 50, and then 25, 75, and back to 100%. I thought that was pretty profound, you know, looking at that. So we have these divisions of color by the ratios of what, you know, those 3 primary colors. Now this is cool. Traditional music, you know, it's like, it says it was created in black and white. We got these, you know, little notes on the staff, and you got to learn, you know, all cows eat grass at the bottom. Every good boy does fine, you know, FACE. You know, you all have had a little basic music theory to try to remember what these lines and spaces are. So this was not, so they were created in black and white, and this was not because sound could not be defined by color, but because the correlation between the language of color and the language of sound was previously unknown. The scientific correlation between the language of color and sound is a recent discovery. So this gets kind of cool. So now if, it'll change in just a second. So in order for color and sound to be compared, a relationship of closest perception of tones and colors can be established so that what is perceived to be a close relationship in sound is described visually to be a perception of closely related colors. All right, so here we go. Now, don't go, I'm just gonna touch on this. We will do another class like on music theory, but these are not in order of chromatic. It doesn't go C, C sharp, D, D sharp. It doesn't go this way. This is going by something called the circle of fifths. So real quick, what this means is if you just count on your hand, you go C, and you go C, D, E, F, G. G would be the 5th note of the C scale. Now, if we started with G and we went G, A, B, C, D, D would be the 5th note of the G scale. We do it one more time. If we started with D and we went D, E, F sharp, G, A, then A would be the 5th note of the D scale. And we just do that continually all the way around. So this was a pretty cool find that this was figured out. And these fifths, you know, going from C to G, again, is a 5th that's going 5 notes, just think about it that way, up from C. It's a really close color. And then again, from G to D, real close color. Look, it's the next color over. No, this gets it gets really cool. So we have this happening, you know, one going to the other in this circle of fifths. Now, the only correct perception between color and sound is that of correlating an equalized 12-tone analogous color circle of pure hues with equal intensity to an equalized 12-tone circle of fifths. That's what I just kind of explained to you. All right, now, any tones related by musical fifth will have the most harmonious sound when played together. Any musical fifth will always be defined by an analogous color pair. So the analogous is like the 2 colors right next to each other. They're right next to each other. So, which defines the closest perception of color. An example of analogous colors would be orange and orange yellow. Now, when we play these 2 tones like that say the D and the A, we're going to hear this when you put them together, what they sound like on a keyboard. Okay, so it's the music. Here we go. the colors. You can see 'em. See, that sounds good. I mean, you'll hear the difference of a bad one in a minute. Okay. So now we're going to go with the opposite sides of the wheel. We're going to go say take this B note and we're going to go F, which is also E sharp. It's the same name as two names. So we're going to hear what those do because those are opposite, or they would call complementary colors. Let me go the opposite side. You can hear the dissonance in that, does it? I mean, disharmonic. It's not as pleasing to the ear. Like, all right, stop, right? So you can hear the dissonance, in that music. And then this just goes on to show you that how hard it is to like, if these are all different keys, but these are all the same notes. But if we use color, I could color that, that's an E note. So, we colored him in that yellow, that was the E, C, D, E, F, G, so that you can immediately see that. So that's, and then it goes, this little thing, this is a really cool thing. It talks about, let me go back over here, how this can make learning music so much easier. Instead of having like these xylophone, for kids colored that way, you would color them with this right, it's not going to be all colors right next to each other. You're going to put them in that pattern. So you can immediately jump around to the colors that are similar and have a more harmonious sound. All right, I'm going to stop at this. This is, it's got a lot of good stuff on that one. Mm-hmm. And then I want to share something else. Do you have any comments on that, Bobby, before I switch off of that?
No, keep going.
All right. So that's a little bit of how that got started. And then let me give you this one too. So a little bit about how all these unite together. There we go. And I want you to now realize that all of these are geometric patterns too. I'm going to go ahead and put all these 12 notes, which we were just saying. There's 12 notes in an octave. You would call it the complete octave, and that's when you count all the sharps and flats, the black notes and the white notes. And if we were to, well, I'm going to just show you how they all create geometric patterns. So here's all of the notes in this circle of fifths. We started before. We had the G and the D and the A. We said that each one is the fifth note of the next one. And if you don't quite get that, that's okay.
12 points.
Now, yeah. So we're going to just put these around in a circle now, just so you can, because there's 12 notes and then there's 12 we can equally divide a circle by 12. It just makes it really nice to correlate all this. And then I'm going to, we could see the opposites of here. So in colors, they're complementary, but in music, they're very dissonant. You heard that it was just like a dissonant tone. And this is called a tritone. It's also called the diabolus in music, the devil in music. This is, if you know anything about music theory, this opposite would be called the flat five. It sounds really cool when you're playing the blues. It has a place, but just by itself with that one note, it sounds really disharmonic. But if you're using it to pass through, going from one space to another, it sounds really cool. But just another thought on that.
And it's interesting that in music, you have the scale of all 12 notes is called the chromatic scale, which means color. Chroma is color.
Right.
So
right.
They're all there.
So now we're going to just kind of bend your eyes a little bit. I'm going to show you this next one. This is going to go kind of 3D. All right. So we're going to kind of look at this and like all of these other little things in here, we can all make some geometric shapes. So now in this here, if you kind of distort your eyes, you can start seeing all kinds of geometric shapes. You can like see a square. You can see a pyramid, triangle. You can see an octahedron,
tetrahedron,
tetrahedron,
star tetrahedron.
Star tetrahedron, and then we'll have to do a class on sacred geometry and get some graphics where you can actually see all those. You know, we'll have to have them colored in where they're pointed out. But, you know, it's like, well, here's, you know, you could see this here, but then it's just difficult because you may not be seeing this little pointer thing. But you get the idea that there's three-dimensionally, you know, and again, you can distort your eyes a little bit and you can start, you know, other patterns will pop out. But this is where all of this starts to come from. So here's now where music and color and geometric shapes start to all come together. So here we go. So now we got music, fifths, whole tones, major thirds, you know, minor thirds, major thirds, chromatics, tritones. Don't worry about it, again, if you don't know what these things are, but those that have a little music theory will start seeing the connections. See, like look, if we look at this, the yellow lines, you know, they're going to make so many, you know, a so many sided figure. If we look at the orange lines, they're going to make a different sided figure. So this is just kind of mapping that out.
And this is also like in astrology, there are 12 signs, and then you have the aspects, the angles at square. Can you go back? Yeah, like square, the trine, opposition, all those angles. They're all mathematic angles describing different parts of our reality.
Right. So here, like Bobby was just starting to say, this is like, I wanted you to see the mathematics on this. And again, if we divide this circle into 12, we have 12 equal divisions of 30 degrees. All right, so just so you get that, if you go 12 times 30, we have 360. So let's just look at this. From here to here is 30 degrees. From there all the way over to here is 60. From the beginning point all the way over to here is 90. And then we have 120, and then we have 150, and then we have 180, and that's half. Now, from here to here is like going this way, you know, so now that's a kind of 150, although we're charting this as going continually. It's the same thing, you know, from here to here is 150 degrees, just like from here to here. But this is just telling you if we keep adding, you know, they're dividing it or subtracting that 30, or I'm sorry, adding that each 30, we would come back and make a complete 360. Okay, but Bobby was also mentioning, and I wanted to show you this, and I think there's another slide on here, which I'll show you squares, but all of these now start making mathematical angles. And I was trying to find a graphic that showed the musical notes laid on top of this and the right colors, but you know, you'll get where I'm going. So, you know, we had this, let's just say this note over here, you know, and then if we played the opposite side over here, that's going to make a certain musical sound. Or if we played this one over here with this one over here, it's going to make another certain sound. And this is, you know, we're going to look at these angles. So it's like, okay, this one would be like a square angle. Maybe, you know, is that not going to be a harmonious sound? You know, that's when you start getting into some cool music theory.
So the angles are, if you had objects placed in those different points, it would be like playing chords or
Yes.
combinations of sounds. It would be a tone for that time and that place or whatever for that
Yes.
person.
Yes. And this is what's cool about real astrology, not just, you know, pick up a newspaper and read something, but when you're born, you know, if this was the map of the heavens, everything, you know, all the planets, the sun, the moon would be somewhere scattered all around in here at a certain spot that's so unique to you. So it would be like your own musical signature. And that's what we are, you know, frequency, musical frequency, where, you know, think about it that way. Okay, so here's this relationship between the octave and the frequency. So down here, like if you notice this, okay, so if you've not ever seen music, and if you have, just follow along. But if you've not ever looked at like a keyboard or anything, I want you just to look at this and notice those black notes, and they go 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, all the way up, right? So let's just, if you haven't ever seen this, right here by the 2, that first white note just to the left of that is C, is a C note. And then we go from C You know, that would be, I'm just going to start that because it's just a nice place to start. And then we'll go back to that A. But anyway, go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And see, look, we're back there. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then, you know, they have that little mark right there. All right, but this is showing you all the A notes just because, you know, there's a concert tuning to concert A, and anyway. But anyway, so here's an A, and we're gonna just, it gave you, that's 27.5 hertz. So if we measured that tone, it's a real low one. And then the next one is gonna go to 55. A, and then we go to double it, 110, A, and then 220, A, and it keeps going up. That's all I'm gonna do, but, but it keeps the same sound, but it goes higher in frequency, and you keep going, and it's gonna keep getting higher. Yeah, all the way up. And then if we keep going off of here, way off, then it'll finally turn into a color.
That'd be 40 times you'd do that.
Yep.
40 octaves, or double.
Yep. See, they're doubling. See how these are all doubling? You can see them in here, 55, 110, 220, 440, 880. Then you get into a little different, you know.
And if you look right in the middle at that dot there, that's middle C.
Yep, right in the middle there.
So a C above it would be the octave. It would also be a harmonic. And then below it would be a harmonic also. So if you raise from middle C 40 octaves, that'll come through as color red.
Oh no, the G was red.
G was red.
Yeah, so
Okay.
wherever the C was in that chart.
It'd be 40
Yeah,
octaves higher.
up there, right. Okay, so now we can take this one step further and say that there's a emotional correlation with these colors. You know, like I was saying, red, it could be rage, anger, or a lighter would be, you know, annoyance. Orange, maybe vigilance. You know, it's not as intense as red. Anticipation, interest. You know, and then we're getting away from that. We're getting into yellow. Oh, it's different. Joy, ecstasy, serenity. Green, you know, growth. We got admiration, trust, and then a weird green. Yeah, and then we got, you know, so these all change accordingly. Let me show one more here. This one. So we can break these down. Parts, I mean, I'm sure that not, every time you're going to wear purple, you're not going to be disgusted or anything. But there are parts of this that could be, you know, watered down, like they had boredom as well. And then what was the other one? Loathing, boredom. I can't read that one in there. I think it says loathing. That real muddy. Maybe when it gets muddier, it gets into more of that. So just a little bit of that for thinking about how that, you know, those colors affect us, and then the intensity, and then what they're with. Sometimes, you know, you need to put that together. Okay, so now this is one of the things that I found. I wanted to just show you these mathematical angles, and this was the best one I can find. I wanted to have them written on there, but I showed you before. Each of these, remember, is 30 degrees, and this just goes around the zodiac. So from here, Aries, let's just say, because that's how they have this mapped out, going over to Cancer is 90 degrees. So we go, you know, it would be like 30, 60. Oops, I'm sorry, move that out of the way. So we're going 30, 60, 90. So we've got a 90 and the 90 and the 90, 90. So we got 4 90s, and that makes 360. So that mathematically works. So because like now we're going to start at the green one, Taurus. So there'd be, you know, there it makes a spot, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. That's one square. Then we're going to go to the next one, Gemini, the yellow one, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. So there's 3 groups, 3 squares, and each
groups of 4.
3 groups of 4. Right. The square has 4 sides, so there's 3 groups of those. Now, I wish I had a picture of it, but if you imagine, there could be 4 3s as well. Okay, I can do, yeah. So 4 of the 120s, and that would, you know,
make equal triangle, equal letter.
So we can go. And then we can say there's 2 180s, so that would be 360. You know, so we can just break these down into some of these different mathematical angles. Here we go. This is trying to show you. I was trying to find things that had the numbers on there just to show you that distance, you know, the divisions there. Okay, so here we got, now we're naming them. Okay, so we give these angles names. So a conjunction is just when it's exactly. A semi-sextile is 30 degrees apart. A sextile is 60 degrees apart. See, it's showing you this line coming down here. And then they get the 72 degrees and 45. They're giving you all these little minor angles too. But, you know, those are all divisions of this 360, all right?
Then your square would be 90.
Yep.
Trine, 120.
And it goes on around. So this is pretty fascinating. Here we go. These are, it says the conjunction, it's 0 degrees. The opposition, which is one of them, it's just opposite. The square is 90. The trine, you know, is just 120 degrees. And this is just showing those different degrees right here. All right. So that's a little bit of just meshing some math with color, sound, healing, geometric patterns.
The music of the spheres.
The music, how it all goes and how colors
Those
are.
angles, as they change, they're creating different chords, if you will. You can imagine that in our solar system, that tone is affecting everything within that system. And some are more harmonious and some are more discordant, creating more tension and things. And then it's all music.
And like some music, you might have heard of major and minor scales. Doesn't matter if you have it or not, but things that are written like in a lot of the minor scales are pretty sad. You know, they're sad, and then the more minor it gets, the more depressing it gets. And then things that are written in major scales are a lot more upbeat, happy, and can almost be, yeah, I definitely say more cheerful. You know, if you study that, is music, as you look at different types
Music
of
theory,
as you get more flats in a key, it kind of gets darker. So this is really interesting how music can affect you. You know, if you listen to country music, it's totally different than listening to, I'm trying to think what's like sad, like listening to old Neil Young or something. You know, it kind of like, you know, some stuff makes you just like, you want to just pout and cry and, you know, or other things you want to be upbeat to. It's like, there's certain songs you would never want to, you know, play at a funeral or you know what I mean? Or the other way around. If you're going out and you're having a good time, you wouldn't be playing sad, slow, depressing music.
you wouldn't play the death march at a wedding or something.
Right. So, you know, this is all how that meshes. And then what colors are you wearing? What do you choose to look around and see you? What is your environment reflecting to you? How is all of, you know, these things intermeshing in your world and in your life? So sometimes if you wonder if you're depressed, you know, you might want to look around and just see how much blue is in your environment. You sing the blues, right?
Or
You know,
blue
think, you know,
playing your dopamine so you don't feel good. You get the blues.
That's right. So I hope we've given you a little bit of understanding on how you can, you know, understand color, sound, frequency, and then how we're starting to use frequency with, you know, on a table and listening to resonance. But then that's your own frequencies by the music you listen to and how you listen to it. And then color, you know, the colors you wear, how it represents your mood, your feelings, and then the colors in your decor. You know, we've all changed our color schemes throughout life with things and just different phases of life that we have been at and how it affects us. So it's pretty cool how it all weaves together. You know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to share with you. It seemed like there was one other thing. There's always so much, you know, trying to get, it's like, oh, I got all this to share. I got this and this, I got it together. So do you have anything else on that, Bobby? Oh, I know what I was gonna say, color. You mentioned like the blue, you know, the singing the blues, and then that's the color coming from all of our monitors and, you know, all of our devices, and then all the LED lights, you know, and it's definitely affecting our dopamine and how good we feel. But then there's the blue blocker glasses, right? So we have a color to block another color that we're getting too much of, And then we like to heal with the red light, the infrared light, because that's what penetrates into your tissues and reduces inflammation and stimulates healing and stimulates the immune system. You know, so those are some ways of working with color to negate or enhance an environment. Right. So do you have anything else to add, Bobby? You got any
Well, I just
final
had
thoughts?
hold on.
Some final thoughts on that. To me, this is fascinating how it just overlaps. You know, I've always been interested in music and have studied music theory for the last 7 years, and it's just fascinating. And then when you couple it with healing and color and mood and music and the human body and how it all correlates, it's by design. You know, I mean, there is a creator whose divine wisdom is immense. It's amazing. And when we start dissecting it, we can go, oh my goodness, this is just great.
So this is talking about, I want to go into this more in a future study group, but talking about our DNA. And we think about our DNA as though it was, well, we only have 2 strands that are active, and we have 10 strands of DNA that scientists call junk DNA because they don't know why it's there. And just like 90% of our brain is not being used, and science doesn't know why that is too, but we apparently when these bodies were created, they were genetically modified to turn off 10 of the strands. We had 12 strands of DNA originally, and we've only been running on 2 strands. We've only been running on 2 cylinders rather than all 12. But the time we're in this part of the galactic cycle we're going through, it's like activating this dormant DNA. They're like zip files that have information that's being unzipped, that's going to control the parts of our brain that have been dormant, and also other parts of our body, and the kinds of proteins that can be produced and things we don't know yet. But this is kind of exciting to think about. We're activating these, which have been considered junk DNA or dormant DNA. And this just talks about the structure of DNA, and this is like words or letters making words and sentences. It's like text that you can learn to read, and then you can rewrite the words also. So DNA is like a whole language, but it's based on light and sound, biophotons and biophonons. And again, they give off light within the body. That's part of the communication system within the body, is this production of sound and light coming from these twisted
Spirals.
protein chains. So it'll be good getting into that in the future. These are the coding regions and the non-coding. The non-coding are considered the junk DNA to science because they don't understand what it is.
We just haven't gotten there yet.
And then here's crop circle showing our DNA patterns. I thought that was pretty cool. So,
Very cool.
oops. And that's how we create this bio-hologram that we call our bodies. And so 97% of your genome considered junk DNA.
Huh.
We're starting
That's a
to
terrible word to put on that. I mean, it really just degrades that and gets people thinking in the wrong direction.
Yeah, God didn't create no junk.
No. Well, maybe him.
I'll leave you with this one. He tried to kill everyone with a pandemic, but accidentally caused a mass awakening.
Look.
You know, people are wakening up, and
Yeah.
Bill Gates is now hated all over the world. He's like public enemy #1. People are onto him and his population reduction plans and all the. He's been kicked out of many countries, Africa and India, and so people are waking up.
Yeah.
And hopefully y'all are waking up more about health by us sharing this information that we have and help you understand how holistic or wide-reaching health really is. It's so much more than just chasing symptoms or even
Supplements.
taking proteins, carbs, and fats into the body and the diet. It's broken down to protons and electrons. And we're really optical. We're electric light beings. And it's exciting discovering that part of us and talking about the correlation.
Show
How
them.
it interfaces with all of nature. So
All right.
it's all music.
It's all color music. Well, thank you all for joining us today. And I hope you learned a little bit. And I think that's all we got to share. So go look at your wardrobe. Yeah, on that note. All right. Color me, color you. All right.
Namaste.
Bye, everybody. Have a great week.